Hello.
This is a very special episode. You know why?
Why?
Because we've been doing Serial Killer Monthly for a whole, I almost said for a whole fucking month, for a whole fucking year.
A whole month, damn it.
But it is crazy that we have done 12 serial killers. This one marks the 12th, to know that we've been doing this for an entire freaking year already.
Strange.
It does not feel like it's been a year.
Reminiscing.
Yeah, reminiscing. Jeffrey Dahmer, Ed Gein, Eileen Wuornos, Ted Bundy, David Berkowitz, Jack the Ripper,
Metheny.
Joe Metheny.
It's Joe, that's what it was.
There was another Joe in there too. Joseph Miller.
What an unrememberable name.
Today, since it's been an entire year, we decided to do a special one, and we are doing a serial killer that was right in the neck of our woods at one point in time. This serial killer did his crimes between 2004 and 2006. Very recent. In 2004, we were 6. So I don't remember hearing about any of this on the news. I don't know if you do, but I walked out to my mom and I was like, hey, does this name ring a bell? And she was like, yeah. Why do I know that name? And I was like, just think about it for a minute. And she's like thinking and she goes, oh, that's that serial killer. And I was like, yeah. And she was like, you guys are doing that one? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, oh, this serial killer is Larry Bright. I almost said Larry Bird again. For the past 3 days, every time I try to say Larry Bright, I say Larry Bird, and that is offensive to basketball. I love the NBA so much, and so the fact that I am calling this man Larry Bird is pissing me off. So if you ever hear me call him Larry Bird, just know that I'm gonna get smacked at some point for saying that. His nickname was the Bonecrusher.
Which sounds like a wrestler to me.
I wonder if there is like some kind of wrestler that's called the Bonecrusher.
I don't know, but I'm gonna Google it.
Google it.
For no reason.
Right now, Google it.
There's a rapper named Bonecrusher.
Oh, what the heck? He's tubby looking.
There's a Bonecrusher in RuneScape, apparently. There's a movie called Bonecrusher. Tito the Bonecrusher is a book.
Well, this is to all you wrestlers watching. Name yourself the Bonecrusher now. Actually, don't. I just don't take my advice.
Ever.
Rule number 1, don't listen to Abby. I just want to say before we start that I found all of this information in the Peoria State's Attorney archives and the
PG Star.
Yes, Peoria Journal-Star archives. All of this is local information. I didn't get anything off like Wikipedia, nothing like that. Because I went to Wikipedia and looked up stuff and it was all very opposite of what the state's attorney's website said and what the Peoria Journal-Star said. So I'm not gonna trust that. I'm gonna trust the state's attorney.
A state's attorney.
I'm gonna trust the state's attorney. For his early life, there's not a lot that we know, but here is what we do know and what I have found. Before he started his killings, he was a concrete worker. Don't know the company, don't know anything about it. The company's probably freaking embarrassed and doesn't want to be like, oh yeah, he worked for us. So I get it. Growing up, he was religious. He went to a Baptist church and he did go to Sunday school every Sunday. A relative who did not want to be named said that they spent their younger days in Tremont, which is a town in Peoria County. They spent a lot of their time there by the lake. They would fish and hang out with friends. So it seems like he was relatively normal. And the relative said that he was very popular in school with the girls. So he was popular, a lot of female attraction, probably had a lot of girlfriends. He had a good friend group, went to church, went to Sunday school. Everything seemed pretty normal for the most part. In 1972, his mom separated from his dad, who was Gary Bright. That name just sounds so familiar and I don't know why. Because after they separated, he did move out here. Like he lived out here somewhere in the country is what my dad told me. Because there are Bright relatives where in this little area of Peoria County that we live in. So I don't know if he ended up moving out here, which is creepy. In 1981, then she decided that she was going to file for divorce in Tazewell County. Tazewell County is the next county over from Peoria County. We're in Peoria County. Tazewell County is across the Illinois River.
Yeah, it's one of the ones that borders Peoria County.
It's where like Pekin is in Tazewell County, right? And East Peoria. Like there's Peoria and then there's East Peoria across the river for those who are not from this area.
And there's a bunch of little towns in between.
She said that the reasoning for her filing for divorce and getting away from him is because he was addicted to alcohol and marijuana. She was very much against like weed and stuff like that. She said there was a lot of extreme and repeated mental cruelty in their relationship. She just wanted to get away. I get that. Gary disappeared from Larry's life for many years. There was a Gary and a Larry.
That's too much. Gary and Larry, my brother Jerry.
Every time I think of Gary and Larry, I think of Gary the Snail and Larry the Lobster for some reason. He's completely out of the picture. Larry's living with his mom. Gary is off somewhere, and Gary did not come back into Larry's life until Larry started to become an adult. I don't know the exact years. Gary decided that he wanted a buddy to like drink and smoke with, and he was like, hey, my son is like older now. I'm gonna go back to him. In 1998, Gary died of cancer. I couldn't find the kind of cancer or anything. Could have been lung cancer, prostate cancer. I don't know. But 1998, that's the year I was born.
Me too.
And with this, Larry was upset because he's like, oh man, I just got my dad back and now he died. So Larry turned to alcohol to start coping. So then rewind a little bit to 1983. Larry was 17 years old. He went to prison for 3 years for residential and vehicle burglary. While he was spending this 3-year, I also saw that some places said 2 years. I don't know.
He could have gotten 3 years and gotten out in 2 or something.
Yeah, because the state's attorney's website said 3 years and then another website said 2 years, but I don't know. But I know it was for residential and vehicular burglary. While he was serving his time in prison, his family said that this is when his behavior started changing, his personality started changing. And when he got out, he refused to speak about what happened to him in prison, almost as if like whatever happened in there completely changed who he was and made him into somebody that they didn't know anymore. For the one thing that he said about it was that what happened to him changed him forever. Before he went to prison, he was drinking and smoking weed. After he got out, he went to whiskey and cocaine.
Alright.
Okay. He was working as this concrete worker, and he injured his back, so then he had to stop working. He ended up having to have 2 surgeries for disc damage. After his surgeries, he was still in a lot of pain, so he was getting painkillers, Vicodin. He got addicted to it. His mom said that he was constantly in pain all the time. So he was constantly on these painkillers, he was doing cocaine, he was drinking a lot. And because of all of this, it sent him into a depression because he could not keep a stable job, because everything he tried to do caused him immense pain. He probably couldn't pass a drug test to save his life because back then weed was not legal in Illinois. It's legal in Illinois now. He's a little late to the party. All of that happening, that was before the 2000s started, and then in 2000 he started spending a lot of time around sex workers, mainly African American sex workers.
Okay, so here's the victims, but they are not all in order. His first victim was 36-year-old Sabrina Payne. He picked her up on the south end of Peoria. He drove them to his house on McClure Street, where he was living at the time. He believed she was ripping him off and lost control, and the next thing he knew, she was dead. He put her body in the front seat of his Blazer and drove to a cornfield. He dragged her out into the field by her feet and threw some of her clothes into the creek. On July 27, 2003, Detective Sergeant Jeff Lower was called to a cornfield south of Augustin Road at Mud Creek Bridge, Tremont Township in Tazewell County, with the report of a body being found. Sabrina was last seen alive at her house on July 25, 2003 at 4 p.m. On July 28th, an autopsy was performed, but the cause of death couldn't be determined with certainty. A few years later, on January 26, 2005, they found Bright at the Tazewell County Jail to serve a search warrant for his yard. Bright told them that that would not be necessary and he would tell them everything. He said he murdered 8 girls by strangling them, and it all started with Sabrina Payne.
The next victim is Shakonda Thomas. On October 7th, 2004, Shakonda's grandmother came to the Peoria Police Department to report that her granddaughter was missing. Shakonda was 32 years old, and at the time she was living with her grandmother, so her grandmother hadn't seen her and was like, what the heck? She had been missing since the last week of August. The police had no leads, no idea what had happened to her. On January 26, 2005, while speaking with detectives, Bright said he killed her by strangulation and then burned the bodies of all 4 of the missing women the police had listed to him. So she was one of the women who was reported missing, not one of the women who was reported found laying in a ditch or a cornfield somewhere. He took all of their ashes and scattered them at various locations within Peoria County. He would go to his backyard and he dug a hole and he used it as a fire pit, and when he murdered these women, he would put them in this hole and light them on fire, and so it was like his personal cremation hole. Disturbing. With him doing that, it made it so only bones and ashes would be left.
The next victim is 45-year-old Shirley Ann Trapp, and she was picked up on the north end of Peoria. Bright could not recall the exact place, but he took her back to his house at
3418
West Star Court. That's where his house was. Together they smoked crack cocaine and had intercourse. Bright noticed that Shirley knew something was going to happen and she started struggling. He struck her hard in the head and strangled her around the throat. Later he told detectives that this was the incident where he had the idea to burn the bodies. He dumped the remains of the women he burned in several different locations. One of the places was in the backyard area, 630 South Anna Street in Bellevue. This is where his grandmother lived, so his grandma's backyard.
Why would you be burying the ashes of dead girls that you've murdered in Granny's backyard? What'd the grandma do to you?
He carried Shirley from the house to the fire and left the body to burn for the day.
And then you're burning. Okay, so his mom lived at that 3418 West Star Court. That's his mom's house. So you're burning bodies in the backyard of your mother's house, and then you're going and taking the ashes to your grandma's house. Like, bro.
Okie dokie, Larry. The next day, he shoveled the ashes into a bucket and disposed of them somewhere else. Detectives found some bone parts and remains in the yard. On August 28, 2004, Shirley Trapp's boyfriend filed a missing persons report with the Peoria police. He had not seen Shirley for several days, and it was unlike her not to contact him. Her family had not seen or heard from her since August 25th. They said she had diabetes and needed continuous medication. The police contacted the St. Francis Pharmacy in Peoria to see if Shirley had picked up her medication, and she hadn't.
That was not a good sign. So then I'm pretty sure that, the police had no leads on what had happened to her, and they didn't know until Bright ended up confessing what he did to her, recognized her off of a picture. That would just suck for your family to, not know what happened to you for years until some guy's like, oh yeah, I know her, I murdered her.
I honestly feel like that's how Peoria still is. If you're from this area, there are so many, shootings that happen in Peoria that we don't even hear about all of them. It's all the time.
Yeah, where Jordan lives, Tuesday night, I was at Jordan's house. I'm there Mondays and Tuesdays. We're getting ready to leave, and at the exact time that we're getting ready to leave, down the street from him, there was a shooting. 2 kids got shot in a botched drug deal. And we didn't even know about it until later that night. What the freak?
Yeah, Peoria is bad.
At this point, we're so numb to it because we see on Facebook, on the news, that there's a shooting every single day. And after a while, it's just I'm not surprised. In early August of 2004, Bright met 33-year-old Laura Lawler on the north end of Peoria near Madison and Spring Street. He offered her money in exchange for sexual activities. That sounds like a Dahmer thing right there. He strangled her during intercourse and then put her body in the fire pit. On August 22nd, 2004, a friend of Laura's reported that he was concerned for her because he hadn't seen her in 3 weeks. And it was unlike her to go that long. Normally they were texting back and forth a lot. They were always connected. They had never gone more than 3 or 4 days without hearing from each other. Just like the time when Carly didn't hear from me for like a week and she almost called my mom.
I found her mom's number online. I was like, I'm gonna call her. She said, I'm okay.
Or that time I was dying of sickness and no one had heard from me for the entire day and everyone was freaking out and I was like,
Jordan's like, should we just go show up at her house? And I was like, oh, maybe.
Maybe. No, I took a lot of NyQuil and I was just fucking gone.
Not the Tylenol PM.
She had an ex-husband and he started getting concerned and went out looking for her. Her ex said that this was very abnormal for her because they shared children together and they were always, you know, switching back and forth. Like, they were seeing each other at least once a week to trade the kids back and forth. And that hadn't happened in 3 weeks. So he was like, what the heck? On August 26th, a missing persons report was filed. On January 26, 2005, Bright identified her from a picture that was shown to him and he was like, I know her. I murdered her. Probably not with that much excitement in his voice. He said that he distinctly remembered her and all of the victims that he had burned. So like those images were just etched into his mind. He told detectives that he felt bad while killing Laura because while he was killing her, she was begging him to not kill her because she had kids and that made him feel bad, but he still killed her anyway. So he didn't care that much. He believes that Laura was the second to last woman that he killed. He did all of these killings within like a 15-month span.
In late September of 2004, Bright met 40-year-old Linda K. Neal in the parking lot of a furniture store by Woody's Bar on the southern edge of Peoria. He offered her drugs in exchange for sex and asked if she wanted to party. He took her to his house and they drank and did cocaine together and then engaged in intercourse. His mother was home, so he decided to dispose of the body away from the house instead of burning it. He took the body to Tazewell County where he disposed of it on the side of the road, leaving traces from a shoelace on her neck.
I mean, at least he had the decency not to burn the body when his mom was home.
I guess. On September 25th, Detective Hal Harper was dispatched to the 2500th block of King Road off of Wildlife Road in rural Hopedale in Tazewell County on a report of a deceased black female who had been found at the end of King Road. She was found lying in a grassy area to the right side of a dirt road within a few feet of a tree. She was naked and a shoelace was found around the upper portion of her neck. On September 26th, an autopsy was performed and showed that the cause of death was asphyxia due to strangulation with a ligature around her throat. Vaginal swabs were taken for sexual assault and a rape kit. On November 11th, after Bright's arrest, cigarette butts were taken from his home and sent for DNA profiling, and it matched with the vaginal swab DNA. Bright admitted that while he was disposing of her body, he was pulling her by the shoestring around her neck because her hands were slippery and he couldn't get a grip.
Bright picked up 29-year-old Tamara Wells near the Harrison homes. We drive by there all the time. Like, me and Jordan drive by there all the time. And when I was like researching this, I was like, we go past the Harrison homes a lot, right? And he was like, no, that's the Taft homes. And I was like, no, you idiot. The building's by the Dollar General, because there was a Dollar General there. And he was like, what building's by the Dollar General? So I literally had to take a screenshot of it and send it to him. And then we drove by there like a week later and I was like, those are the Harrison homes. He was like, oh yeah, I thought you were talking about the Taft homes. And I was like, no.
No, that's why I didn't say the Taft homes.
The Taft homes are violent.
Dude, look, my knees are making a heart.
He took her to his house on Star Court where they smoked crack, drank whiskey, and had intercourse. During that time, he started to strangle her, like he did with the other ones. She struggled and ended up scratching his face, but he ended up overpowering her and choked her until she was dead. Then he carried her dead body out to the backyard and burned her in the fire pit. On September 22nd, 2004, one of Tamara's sisters went to the Peoria Police Department and reported that they had not been in contact with her sister for quite a while, at least 3 weeks. They said it was not like her to go that long without checking in, as was for the rest of them. Bright said the only reason that he remembered her is because he set her body on fire, left her burning for the day, came back, and her body had not fully burned all the way, so he had to restart the fire. So that's how he remembered who she was. He dumped the remains behind 2317 North Willow Road in Norwood. What the heck?
I'm just gonna pick a spot. Like, the fuck?
Yeah, like, you're spreading this shit out.
On February 4th, 2004, Bright picked up Barbara Williams on the south end of Peoria. He took her to his home on West Star Court. Together they did crack cocaine. He found her trying to steal his money, so he punched her in the throat and she started choking. He said he just lost control, which seems to be an ongoing theme with him. Once she was dead, he took her to North Valley View Road and dumped her body there because he just wanted to get rid of the body. Later he said after this incident, he knew he was going to kill the girls when he picked them up. He called it hunting, which is gross and inhumane, but okay. On February 5th, 2004, Detective Dave Wilson was dispatched to the 4800th block of North Valley View Road in Edwards, Illinois, for a report of a female body lying on the side of the road. He found Barbara's body face down in the snow, partially clothed with her feet still on the road. On February 6th, an autopsy was performed and showed there were several antemortem injuries, including a contusion on the right side of her face by her eye, a contusion and abrasion of her left shoulder, and an abrasion of her left arm and lacerations of her left hand. Dr. Violet Hinalisa stated that Barbara died of cocaine toxicity. No signs of asphyxia or strangulation were evident. On
October 14th, 2004, his last confirmed murder took place. There is speculation that he murdered other people after, but it's never been confirmed. He's never confirmed anything. There's never been any evidence to prove that he did, because there were other women that went missing around that time that very possibly could have been linked to him, but he never confirmed it. So we will never know for sure. The victim was 41-year-old Brenda Irving. Bright claimed that he had absolutely no recollection of where he picked her up and where they met. He said he took her to his house and they did drugs for about an hour and then had intercourse, and then he attacked her. He said she was particularly strong and resisted fiercely, almost knocking him unconscious. She almost got away, but when she got to the door, she couldn't get it opened. So he came up behind her and started striking her in the back of the head as she was trying to get the door open. And then when she was unconscious, he strangled her to death.
That almost sounds like Dahmer too, when that one kid got away.
Yeah.
Police brought him back.
Conorak. His entire plan was to dispose of her body at a nearby place, but he was so drunk and disoriented, he got lost on the back roads and he started to panic. He ended up throwing her body out near a dairy farm in Elmwood. While he did this, he made sure that he covered all of his footprints, so there were no footprints, no evidence that he was there. The next day, on October 15th, Deputy Durand Huseman was dispatched to the 2400 block of West Taggart Road, Elmwood Township in Peoria County. When he got there, he found Brenda's body lying face up in the mud. She was naked, but only wearing socks. And one thing that he did notice, that the only footprints were the footprints of the person who found her body and called it in. They couldn't find the footprints of the person who had did it, which made it pretty hard to track. The autopsy showed her injuries were consistent with asphyxia and blunt force trauma, and her body contained a very high level of cocaine. Bright later said that this was the last time he used his blazer to transport somebody. Elmwood is a very small town, so
they've got like
a
couple thousand.
Yeah. Frightening. And so you know that was big news back then. He also said he burned her clothes but had a difficult time burning her red raincoat because it was leaving residue, and the red raincoat was what Brenda was last seen wearing before she went missing.
One night in August 2004, 36-year-old Vicky Bomar was working near the Harrison homes and ran into Bright. He offered her $200 for crack cocaine in exchange for sex. They went to his home on Star Court. At knife point, he beat her and raped her. After, he told her to get dressed and get into his truck. Once outside, Vicky ran, and Bright chased after her in his truck. She found a woman in a car and told her she had been raped, so the woman drove her home. Vicky didn't go to the police because she had 2 outstanding warrants and didn't want to get arrested.
Her warrants were for, like, stealing from stores and stuff, I believe.
You should still maybe call it anonymously, I don't know, something. 5 months later, she got arrested and told the police that she would help with the investigation for a plea deal. Police were wondering why she didn't come forward sooner.
This all led to his downfall because she got away.
At least somebody got away.
I know, thank God. The police ended up taking her story and they started to investigate because they were like, okay, well, she might be onto something here. Because at first they were like, why didn't you come to us in the first place? And they were really questioning her believability at this point because they were like, I don't know. Police noticed at least 6 similar cases where Bright was showing aggressive behavior to African American sex workers. In December of 2004, Bright was detained and interrogated. He refused to cooperate, and because of that and the lack of evidence, they had to release him.
Of course they did.
But then on January 20th, 2005, the district attorney was granted a search warrant to search Bright's property for evidence. Police found several plots of excavated land, which Bright's mother said that got there by them removing the raspberry bushes. I was thinking, I was like, is she trying to cover for him? Like, does she know? Or was he offering to do her yard work to be able to make his little fire pits?
Maybe.
Because when I did go through all the newspaper archives, she's done a lot of interviews with interviews that she did, and she just seems absolutely shocked and horrified, basically, that was going on in her own backyard and she didn't know. So I don't believe that she knew. Like, I'm leaning towards he was doing yard work and she thought that he was doing her a favor by getting rid of the damn raspberry bushes and then making them a fire pit.
Yeah, I'm too nosy. If my kid was living in my house and they were outside burning something, I'd be like, what you doing out here?
Yeah.
What's going on? Were you gonna roast some marshmallows? Like, I'm too up in my kid's business for them to just be doing something like that.
While digging, the officers found ashes and bone fragments. With this evidence, Bright was then detained because they had evidence against him now. He ended up getting detained in the Tazewell County Jail. A forensic examination showed that the bones were human bones, not animal bones or anything like that. And with that, Bright was charged with murder. The prosecutor then ordered his house to be completely excavated.
But his mom was real excited about that.
She's probably like, get rid of all these raspberry bushes. Soon after all of that happened, Bright confessed to the murders of 8 women.
On March 1st, 2005, CSI Matt Davis conducted examinations of the exhibits that were recovered during the processing of the scenes. 3418 West Star Court in Peoria, 630 South Anna Street in Bellevue, 2317 North Willow, Norwood. He found numerous human skeletal remains and was able to determine that the minimum number of humans there was 3. 3 bone fragments had come from 3 separate human craniums.
And then the trial. He's 39 at this point, and he was held without bond in the Tazewell County Jail. He was spared the death penalty, which I didn't even know that Illinois still had the death penalty in 2006. I didn't know that. I don't even know when they got rid of it. You should Google that real quick, when Illinois got rid of the death penalty. So he was spared the death penalty because of his full confession and plea bargain. On May 30th, 2006, he pled guilty to 7 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of drug-induced homicide.
July 1st, 2011.
Holy shit. And we're only the 16th state to abolish the death penalty. I thought it was illegal everywhere. I'm dumb as fuck. He got life in prison for each first-degree murder, so that's 7 life in prisons, plus 30 years for the drug-induced homicide. And he has no possibility of parole.
Well, I wouldn't hope so, because he'll probably be dead by the time he serves his...
Yeah, he's still alive. He's like 57 right now. A relative of Bright's wanted him to get the death penalty and was mad that he didn't. He said, "Those women are dead, and their families won't ever get to spend time with them. Larry will live even though he's behind bars." And Bright said, "I know I've committed some horrible and unthinkable acts. I am very sorry for the grief and heartache that I have caused."
No, you're not.
Someone told him to say that.
I hate when they say that.
Like,
oh, I'm sorry.
I'm pretty sure it's just their attorney, like, being like, just say this.
You have to apologize.
A Springfield psychologist did a mental evaluation to see if he was insane at the time of the crimes, and it came back that he was not. He was completely level-headed and in the right mind while he was committing the crimes. He knew what he was doing it on purpose, so he could not plead insane. And then Bright said he considered committing suicide on multiple occasions but never went through with it because of his religion. Now your
So you can just kill anybody you want, but not you, not yourself, because that would be against your religion.
Yeah, what?
If you thought that was gonna save you from eternal damnation, I think you're incorrect.
He admitted that he was planning to attack the officers that were there to arrest him with knives so that they would shoot him and kill him, but his mom was there, so he decided not to because he didn't want his mom to see that. A lot of people believed that since he was only targeting the African American females, that he was racist because he's a white creepy man and he's going after only black sex workers. So people are like, are you just freaking racist? And he said, no. He developed a misogynistic view of African American people, especially women, after he got HIV/AIDS from one of them.
So he was just fucking all these women. I know, but he was also, I guess it doesn't matter.
But he tested negative.
Oh.
Then he went on to say that while in prison, he was sexually abused and raped by African American men while in prison.
So like the first time he was in prison?
Yes, when he was 17. He said that's what changed him as a person forever, and he developed a hatred toward African American men, but he was not sexually attracted to men, so he turned his focus towards the women in the sex field. That makes more sense.
Alright.
But still not okay. His attorney, Jeff Page, said Bright transformed while in prison, and that when he was first arrested, he was very angry and wanted to die, and now he has resigned to his fate.
That's because he was on drugs. Of course he was a psycho.
Yeah.
And then you make him where he can't get drugs, and then he chills out. Shocker.
Hey, Jim.
Hey, Tim.
You want to hear a serial killer not so fun fact?
I sure do.
Making eye contact, I don't like it.
Sorry.
People spent a total of $221,000 to keep Bright from getting the death penalty. Yeah.
Why do that?
I don't know.
Hi, Tim.
Hey, Jim.
You want to hear a serial killer not so fun fact?
Yes.
Okay. There are more than 2,000 active serial killers in the U.S. right now.
That makes me nervous.
That's weird.
It makes me glad I live in the middle of nowhere.
I wonder, I'm gonna Google it. What state has the most serial killers?
I bet it's like California or New York.
I'm sure it's a bigger state, like bigger populated.
My guess is California or New York.
Oh, Wisconsin's probably up there.
Yeah.
New York, you were right.
Whoop whoop!
New York coming in at number 1. As of 2023, New York has been home to 18 serial killers and a total number of 677 victims.
Jesus fuck. What's California ranked?
I don't know. Also, United States is number 1 for total serial killers. We have 3,615 total serial killers, and the second country is Russia, and they only have 196. Which is not a bad thing, but Jesus Christ, America, what are we doing here? California with 15 serial killers. Texas with 8. Illinois, 7. Ohio, also 7, but is ranked lower due to the fact that fewer serial killer victims at 505 total. Illinois had 680. Indiana with 6, Louisiana with 6, Pennsylvania with 5.
Well, on that note,
Learn something new every day. Was it information you needed? No, but here we are.
interesting to say the least. So like and comment, subscribe if you liked our little jingle, and because you love us and you love watching us talk about serial killers for an hour. Are you doing it the correct way this time? Okay.
Why does yours look funny? You're like,
Because I have bony ass fingers.
I got sausage fingers.
Thank you for watching for a whole freaking year of this nonsense. And don't worry, we're gonna be back next month. It's her pick.
We're still doing them.
We're still doing it. She's got a pick, so we're gonna skedaddle, and she's gonna pick, and we're going to the store for my mom, and we're gonna buy stuff, and then I'm gonna take her home, and I'm gonna go back to her house later because there's basketball practice, so we're gonna be hanging out later. Okay, bye!